Salutations. Welcome to another episode of OXYWORD. I am your host, Joel Wilborn. In this video, I will be talking to an individual who will be discussing the racism issue in the penal system as well as the justice system. He is very eager to discuss his views on this subject, and I believe he has some very interesting stuff to say, and hopefully he will be able to entertain you and spark some interest in his fight and his condition. So you'll be able to send him a JPay and maybe get in contact with him. And if all goes well, we can all work to help improve the system and quite possibly get his sentence reduced, because it does seem to be kind of excessive. So here's our next video telephone call. Okay, this is Joel Wilborn. I'm on the telephone with a person who is currently incarcerated, and I have a question for him. But before we start, I want to get an introduction. Will you please state your name?
Yes, my name is Devennice Gaines.
Okay, and what are your views on the Supreme Court and our elected state senators and representatives when it comes to fixing the systemic racism in our legal system and in our community?
Well, first, I'm going to talk about the later first. I feel that our elected senators and our elected state senators and representatives prey on us. You know, like I was saying, I feel that they go to minorities, brown, black, Asian, white, any minorities, low income places, communities, families, and to get reelected, they sell us dreams. They tell us things that what they can do for us and how they're going to do it for us. And say, for instance, the third off bill that they were just trying to put into place, that they put in place, and they was pushing it, and it was going. It had so much steam, momentum, and it was going so fast. And then Trump left office, and Biden came and stepped in and gave each state some bailout money. And then the same people who pushed these bills killed the bills. The same people who did it stopped it. All of a sudden they got money, so now they don't want to help us out no more. And I feel that this is like a continuous, ongoing thing every year. Every time they want to get reelected, this is what they do. They come at us with these promises, and then they started off right, but once something happens and once that's going to benefit them, they stop it. You know, and about our Supreme Court, I have a here that I would like to read. Supreme Court. It was dated June 4th, 2020. It says, and it's got signed by the justice, by 9 different justices. And it says, dear members of the legal community, we are compelled by recent events to join other state Supreme Courts around the nation in addressing our legal community. The devaluation and degradation of Black lives is not a recent event. It is a persistent and systemic injustice that predates its founding. But recent events have brought to the forefront of our collective consciousness a painful fact that is, for too many of our citizens, common knowledge. The injustice faced by Black Americans are not relics of the past. We continue to see racialized policing and overrepresentation of Black Americans in every stage of our criminal and juvenile justice system. Our institutions remain affected by the vengeance of slavery, Jim Crow laws that were never dismantled, and racist court decisions that were never disavowed. The legal community must recognize that we all bear responsibility for this ongoing injustice, and that we are capable of taking steps to address it, if only we have the courage and the will. The injustice still plaguing our community, our country, has its roots in the individual and collective actions of many, and it cannot be addressed without the individual and collective actions of us all. As judges, we must recognize the role we have played in devaluing black lives. This very court once held that a cemetery could lawfully deny grieving black parents the right to bury their infant. We cannot undo this wrong, but we can recognize our ability to do better in the future. We can develop a greater awareness of our own conscious and unconscious bias in order to make just decisions in individual cases. And we can administer justice and support court rules in a way that brings greater racial justice to our system as a whole. As lawyers and members of the bar, we must recognize the harms that are caused when meritless claims go unaddressed due to systemic inequities or the lack of financial, personal, or systemic support. And we must also recognize that this is not how a justice system must operate. Too often in the legal profession, we feel bound by tradition and the way things have always been. We must remember that even the most vulnerable percentage must be struck down when it is incorrect and harmful. The systemic oppression of black Americans is not merely incorrect and harmful, it is shameful and deadly. Finally, as individuals, we must recognize racism and injustice against black Americans is not an omnipresent specter that will inevitably persist. It is the collective product of each of our individual actions, every day. It is only by carefully reflecting on our actions, taking individual responsibility for them, and constantly striving for better that we can address the shameful legacy we inherit. We call on every member of our legal community to reflect on this moment and ask ourselves how we may work together to eradicate racism. As we learn and to do this hard, as we lean in to do this hard and necessary work, may we also remember to support our black colleagues by lifting their voices, listening to and acknowledging their experiences will enrich and inform our shared cause of dismantling systemic racism. We go by the title of justice. We will reaffirm our deepest level of commitment to achieving justice by ending racism. We urge you to join us in these efforts. And this was signed by 9 chiefs. It was signed by Deborah L. Stevens, Chief Justice. It was signed, well, not 9 chiefs, but 9 justices. It was signed by Deborah L. Stevens, Chief Justice, Charles W. Johnson, Justice, Barbara A. Madsen, Justice, Susan Owens, Justice, Stephen C. Gonzalez, Justice, Cheryl Gordon McLeod, Justice, Mary L. Yu, Justice, Raquel Montoya Lewis, Justice, and G. Helen Whitener, Justice. This was in June 4th, 2020. And still, we haven't seen no type of change, no type of effort in doing anything to help support this letter. These justices, they say they join these things. Me personally, I've been through some things during this trial, during my time right now. I went through 3 trials, and the prosecutor that was on the lead prosecutor on my case, his name is Greg Greer. And after my second trial, my second mistrial, he had an emergency at home, so he went to go home. And they put another lawyer, prosecutor on my case, James Curtis. And James Curtis looked over looked over everything on my case and everything, and he came to me and said, "Man, listen, take a deal for 10 years, do 6.5 years, and go home." He said, "This is nonsense." And so I told him, "Okay." I agreed to sign the deal. He takes the deal upstairs to his boss, Mark Leskowitz. Mark Leskowitz calls Greg Greer while he's at home. And Greg Greer said, "No, don't give him the deal. We're going to get him one way or another. If anything, offer him 30 years." And that's what he did. He came back to me and offered me a 30-year plea deal on a 38-year sentence. Mind you, a lot of these courts and what they've been doing is they've been bullying us. They've been trying to force us to plead guilty to things that's not even. They'll sit here and say, "Oh, okay, give them 8 assault tubes, but you only have 1. Give them 8 because it was people in the area and he could have assaulted them." And then what they do is once you get to court, they'll tell you, "Well, plead down to this 1 assault tube, and we'll drop the other 8, that's the only thing you could have done anyway, because that's all that you was facing anyway. They'll bully you to take these plea bargains instead of going to trial, and then they punish you by exercising your right to a fair trial by giving you all these extra time, by giving you all these other crimes. They want to add other things onto it. You know, my prosecutor told me he told my jurors when my trial first started. Well, his opening statement was, mind you, this is supposed to be peers, jurors of my peers. But his opening statement was, he's not like us. You know, we live in a place. He comes from a totally different world. We live in a place where we can keep our doors unlocked and our windows open. He comes from a place where he goes to clubs and get into fights in clubs, and people get shot outside, and they just leave the person out from dying in the street. These were his open arguments on my case, you know. But these are supposed to be people of my peers. I'm illiterate. I'm so illiterate to the law. I don't know what's going on. And just like the jurors, they're illiterate to the law too. Because when they was asking what was a trajectory, they couldn't understand what it was. You know, how the guy got shot and what angle he was when he got shot. They didn't know. They was asking, what was that mean? And the judge said, "Oh, I can't tell you. You got to figure it out on your own." These are the type of things that I was talking to a lawyer. And I asked him. I called him when I first got to the county jail. I asked him to represent me. He said, "Where are you at?" I said, "I'm in Pierce County Jail." And he told me, "No, I would not represent you." This lawyer was from Seattle. He said, "I would not represent you because the judges give the prosecutors too much leeway. The prosecutors are the judges in Pierce County." You know, it's another lawyer from Pierce County. She's deceased now. Barbara Court. She came to me and told me, "If you was in Seattle or any other county, you wouldn't even got charged with this." You know, the reason they had the probable cause to come arrest me was that a man said that the person was over 6 feet, dark skinned with a high top face. Well, I'm light skinned, I'm 5'10", and I've been bald since 2007. You know, and the police asked him, they said, "You sure this is not him?" And they said, "Well," the guy said, "Well, it could be him. It could be him. It could look similar." He said, well, would you sign this?" He said, "Well, I wouldn't bet my life on it that that's him." He said, "Okay, well, that's good enough anyway, just sign it." And that was their probable cause to come and arrest me. Now, if I would have known that I could exercise a discovery hearing, so I could know for the prosecutors have to show what they have on me to charge me with this crime, and then the judge would be able to determine whether it was fit to go to trial or not, I would have asked for one. But my lawyer, he knew I could have asked for that. But by him being a public defender, did he want to do that for me? No. He didn't do that for me at all. So what had happened is I went ahead and went to trial. I got a mistrial on the first trial. My second trial was another mistrial, hung juror. And on my third one, the prosecutor brought in out-of-state evidence during his closing arguments to convict me. Mind you, no one said that I was a shooter. No one said that I did anything but fight the guy inside the club. And moments later, after I came out the club, the guy died. Well, when I got patted down and wanted going inside the club, I got patted down and wanted going inside the club and with no weapon found on me. And coming out of the club, yes, I did get in a fight in the club. And so when I exit the club, everybody sees me. But no one said that they seen a gun in my hand. No one said that they seen me shoot. No one said they even seen, mind you, it's pitch black in this alley. No one said they even seen a fire lightning come from a silhouette coming from my direction. But yet the prosecutor's female walked up to him and handed him a gun, a 380, and that's how he got the gun and he shot me. But that's nowhere in no evidence. No one ever said any of the thing about none of that. But yet this is how the prosecutor tied in to the jurors of how I could have had him got a weapon. But I didn't understand how the jurors didn't use common sense that, okay, who in their right mind is going to stand there and look at a person while someone hand him a gun for they can shoot him with it? I don't understand that. But at the same time, the prosecutor break rear and the judges, like the lawyer told me in Seattle, they're working with each other. They're not trying to help. They're trying to do as much as you can against me so they can get as much time out of me. And it started when you're a juvenile. When you're a juvenile, they come at you and tell you, oh, take a deal for this and we'll let you go home right now. You know, without your parents or nobody around. Just take a deal for this. Not knowing that by you taking that deal for that, your points going to double once you become an adult. Your points is going to get you more time as you become an adult if you offend again. You know, and by me, my father left me at the age of 13.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
My mother's a single parent. I'm the oldest son. I'm the oldest boy in the house. So at 13, I was forced. Well, I wasn't forced, but I chose to help my mom put food on the table by going out here and selling drugs and stuff. And that's how I started my crimes. That's how I started becoming the person who I am today, being in the position and in the situation that I am in now.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
That's my input on the legal legislators, on the Supreme Court, and I hope it touches some of you guys out there, man. And for you guys who want to dig deep into these things and help out in any way that you can, I appreciate it all. If you want to get in contact with me, I'm at WCC.
Okay, that was an actual conversation that I had with an actual incarcerated person. And as you can see, sometimes these calls just don't seem like they're long enough. You know, there's a few folks that will call someone that they would really like to talk to, and they don't get an answer. So on a few occasions, I've gotten phone calls where the people will say thank you for answering, which is very unusual for those of us on the outs. Not unusual for people that are locked up. They enjoy talking to folks, and there are times that they'll have to wait quite a long time just to get on a phone and then to be able to call us. So phone conversations are very helpful. They allow folks to reach out and say something that's on their mind instead of talking to the same people that they pretty much see every day and that they live with. And so you got a chance to experience that call. And the actual call is roughly about 20 minutes. And so that was pretty much the entire length of our phone call. He did call back, and he felt a little bad that it got cut off, but that's the way the prison system works. And he did bring up some very interesting points. The Washington State Supreme Court actually sent out a letter, and you heard him read that, and he made his comments on it. And once again, I just can't emphasize the importance of supportive relationships. The more people that we're able to communicate with, and the more people that we're able to work with, the better our chances of reducing crime and cutting back on the prison population. It's not a matter of locking people up for 50 years or 30 years or any extended length of time. It's just about getting to know the people and understanding why the crime was committed, how they feel about it, how they want to prevent this from happening with them or with anybody around them, how they feel about the victims of the crime. There's a human factor, and this person is a human, and all he's asking is that he's treated just like everybody else. It's just the golden rule. So I want to thank you for joining me today, and I'll be posting the contact information, and hopefully you'll be able to reach out and open up some dialogue, and maybe you can meet some more people. You never know.